Welcome back to Life Curious Women Season 5. What? I can't believe I'm saying that. That's so surreal. I feel like every season I say that, but truly, Season 5 seems crazy. We officially hit around 75 episodes at the end of Season 4, which is insane that many episodes have been put out. I think when I started this podcast, I really didn't know what this was going to evolve into. I didn't really know what was going to happen. I started it just listening to my intuition and feeling like this was something that was necessary in the world, and that I knew that I could really bring interesting voices to the forefront. And I just we've done that. We've truly done that. We've brought every type of person forward, every background, this, that, I can't wait to keep doing that. Can't wait to keep expanding that, because more than ever it's needed. But I think what makes Life Curious Women so different from so many other communities and podcasts is that the true honesty and authenticity that each of our guests bring to the table. I think when I'm talking to these people and bringing people on the podcast, it all comes from genuine authenticity and genuine conversations. And I feel really genuinely inspired by all of the women that come on the podcast. And there's still so many other women I haven't gotten a chance to bring on the podcast who inspire me. And will continue to inspire me and come into my orbit. And I'm so excited to keep doing that, along with, talking to all of y'all, and being able to bring forward topics that not only I think all of you are interested in, but things that I'm going through, things that I've experienced or am experiencing. And so there's just so much to continue to uncover here at Life Curious Women beyond the podcast as well. If you're new to the podcast, if you're new to Life Curious Women in general, there's so much more than a podcast. We obviously have our podcast. We interview incredible women here. I have tons of solo episodes to dive into that you can go back and listen to. But we also have our international retreat that we had for the first time this year, our Connection to Purpose retreat. And we have our second annual that is already sold out. So I thought I'd be talking about that this season, but we sold out within a month, which is crazy. And I'll dive into a little bit more later. But yeah, so we have our retreat. We've hosted a couple of events for women here in New York City. And there's just so many things that I want to try with our community that I think would be really valuable in this next, not just podcast season, but just this next season of life and this next season with the community. So I'm excited to dive into all of it. Now, this episode's a little off the cuff, so forgive me if it's all over the place, but I just felt, I don't know, a calling to just turn my mic on and just start talking to y'all about what's been going on and how I view this next phase of Life Curious Women, how I continue to grow and develop, and all the things that kind of happened within the last couple of months. So let's get into a little update. This is going to be a little combo of personal update, but also a Life Curious Women update and just all of the things. So bear with me as we bounce around with my ADHD thoughts. Also, before we get started, we have a YouTube now. I mean, we've always had a YouTube, but I have never posted full episodes on there. But this season, we are launching our full episodes on YouTube. So go watch us on there. You can watch me right now if you are watching me on YouTube right now. But if you're listening, you can also now watch all of our episodes on YouTube, which is a really exciting development. This is something I wanted to start last season. I think the first episode of last season, I said we would be on YouTube. And then honestly, I had technical difficulties because I had this is the honest truth. I had a really old laptop, and I discovered that recording on that laptop was nearly impossible, not just video, but the audio was also not working. So I had to find alternative ways to record a couple of our episodes, most of our episodes last season. So yeah, so I wasn't able to do that last season, but guess what? We got a new laptop, we got a new setup, And now I'm excited to announce that we are officially on YouTube. So you can go watch episodes on there whenever you want. I typically don't watch a lot of episodes of podcast episodes, but recently this has been like a new thing for me. And one of the things I've been liking to do is if I'm home and working, I throw YouTube up on my TV and I just put vlogs on there and podcast episodes, and it's actually kind of nice. So go and watch us if you're not watching us already. But this is going to be a new thing for me, is like knowing that you guys are able to see me while I'm talking. Not that I was doing anything weird before, but I'm just like, oh, I have to be conscious that like you're actually watching me right now. So yeah, go and listen to us on there, or continuing to listen to us on Apple and Spotify or wherever you are listening to podcasts. So yeah, okay. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into a big update episode on what's been going on with me, what's been going on with Life Curious Women, and what I'm planning for the next season of my life, for the next season of the Life Curious Women world, and all of the updates. So let's get into it. So Season 4, we ended, and a little recap in case you have missed it or you're new to the community. We hosted our first retreat. We went to Guatemala in March for Women's History Month, which is just like sick. I can't believe that we actually did that was like real, but we did. And we went, it was 6 of us. We went for 8 days, I believe. And it was the most amazing, life-changing experience I think I've ever had. Like, it was just so beautiful. We visited 2 cities, and the group that we have, it was just so magical, so like destined that this group of people came together, because it just was an incredible way to connect with new women. And everyone was so vulnerable and honest and like truthful and open. And that is exactly the type of environment I like to curate, whether that's at our events, whether that is in a podcast episode, or, at our retreat. And so it really just came together so beautifully. You can go back and listen to episodes. I did like live podcast episodes every night of our retreat, and it was so awesome to do that in sort of like a audio diary of what we were doing and going through and like experiencing. But it was such a kickoff, I think, for me personally in my life. Like, I had been talking about this retreat for so long that like for it to actually come to life and happen, and for me to be able to experience it as well. And we partnered with the World Within Us, who took care of practically every detail. We had a host, or a guide while we were there, Tanya. Shout out Tanya. And she was incredible, and none of us had to think about anything. Like, we could truly just be present and experience the experience. And I think that's what makes the Connection to Purpose retreat so different from like a random trip you could take. Like, you are not planning anything. You are just showing up with an open heart, an open mind, ready to connect with not only the women on the retreat, but with the experience. And so that was truly the whole entire experience that we had. And I really genuinely think that caused like a ripple effect in my personal life of like what happened afterwards. So this was in March. Beautiful experience. And I think that like I had made a couple episodes talking a little bit about how I really burnt myself out at the end of 2024. And I think I was just doing far too much. And so going into 2025, I was already with the mindset that like I wanted to do less. I wanted to like structure my time differently. I wanted to like just be better about where I spent my time and more strategic, because it just wasn't working living that way. So again, like if you haven't listened to episodes before, I am an actor. So I mainly audition for film and television and commercials. And so I actively am doing that. So like I'm an actor. I also, this was all last year. Like I was in the middle of building out Life Cures into something much bigger than a podcast, with expanding with events, expanding with the retreat. So I was doing that. I was showing up online a lot more often. I was like pretty consistent with our newsletter every single week. And then on top of all of that, I also brought you guys along the journey of like getting out of hospitality, moving into a 9 to 5. And that was part of that journey at the end of last year. And so working a 9 to 5, being an actor, and hosting a podcast, trying to fill a retreat, doing a newsletter, keeping up with our social media. I had no help. I didn't have an intern. Like it was all me. Editing episodes, like all the things that by December, I could not function. I just could not even think of anything at all, ever. Like couldn't do anything. And January, I really spent the month like recuperating, and I didn't even do any sort of goal setting until like later in the year. I think like February or March, because I just couldn't get my head around it. And I really went into this year with the intention of like understanding my ADHD brain a little bit better, understanding how to set better time boundaries and rest more. That was the intention. And I really think I've been very good about this. Very, very good. And so I would say though, like I still had a lot on my plate at the beginning of the year because I was doing everything myself. I ended up bringing on an editor who was incredible and helped me so much to be able to continue putting out this podcast. I also felt like I just pulled back on social media. I had to. But I hosted an event in May, and I knew that that was going to be sort of like a button on that phase of Life Curious Women, on that phase of my life. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to wrap up season 4. I'm going to host our last event for a while. And I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a break. And I don't know what that break's going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be a month. I don't know if it's going to be 2 months. I don't know if it's going to be 4 months. I just need a break. And so I was still busy in my actor life. I booked 5 commercials earlier this year, pretty back to back, within probably like 3 or 4 months, maybe. And so I booked 5 commercials back to back. I was like in the middle of like figuring out my representation, my manager and agent situation, and all the things. So like there was a lot on my plate, not to mention still working my 9 to 5. So I was like, I need a break. And that last event really revealed a lot to me, where I was like, I don't know if I love running events at the moment. Like it didn't feel really aligned for me anymore. And I loved being at the events. I love hosting. I love talking to y'all and like being there. But all of the lead up to events it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I think for as much as I have on my plate, one of my biggest challenges this year was to be like, even if you love something, even if it's good, even if it does well for the community, or not even just with Life Cures Women, just like in general, even if it feels nice, I have to be realistic about my time and figure out like priorities. Like where do the priorities lie while I am still working a 9 to 5, while I am still doing things that like are helping me survive, So all of that to say is that I knew season 4 was coming to an end. I knew that this would be our last event for a while. And it was such a successful event. Like, I don't think I did a podcast afterwards, but it was such a beautiful event. We did a clothing swap. We had Maya Simone, who's this incredible stylist, come and lead a workshop. And we like went through a worksheet of just like figuring things out in terms of like our style and who we're becoming and how our style reflects that. And we had a Q&A. We talked about how to like build your wardrobe. And then we did a massive clothing swap. And it was really just like exactly what I wanted. It was just like a chill, cool event that we could like talk about, something that I feel really excited about in this next phase of my life is like, I also am trying to figure out my personal style. I'm also trying to like be better about building my wardrobe. And I think that like in the last couple of years, I kind of lost that. I always felt really connected to style. And then I don't know, like the last couple of years, I've kind of like lost that love. I think working in hospitality, I never really had to wear, my own clothes. And then now starting in an office job, I'm wearing office clothes that I'm like not really deeply connected to. And so this is something that like selfishly, I was like, I really want to be a part of this. And it was just such a cool event and an interesting topic to talk about and be in community with. And so I got to meet a lot of new people in this community, which is just really cool because that's something that I'm always excited to learn about who is listening, who is a part of this community, and who's like, what are they building? Because all y'all are building something, and it's so freaking cool to like hear about your businesses and your communities and your podcasts and all the things you're doing. So it's just really exciting and really cool. So that went really well. And I was just like, all right, like this is going to be the button on this season. And now like I'm going to see what happens in this next season of life. And so I decided I would take a break. And genuinely, I had no idea what this meant. Like I didn't know. I was questioning whether or not I could even continue to do Life Curious Women in complete transparency. Mostly because, like I said, I really wanted, aside from this year being my year of like slowing down and figuring out how to set boundaries around my time, my two main focuses this year going like into the year with my goals was to recenter acting as a massive priority in my life, and secondly, to really focus on my finances, which I think that I will do a separate podcast episode to talk about finances and money mindset and all of the work I've done around money, because I don't think we've actually done a topic like that. And maybe I'll bring in someone that, can talk more about it than I can. But I knew that those were going to be my two priorities, was focusing on my money mindset, building a fuck you fund, my emergency fund, but I like to call it a fuck you fund because I do To Be Magnetic, which is this neural pathway, like neural manifestation program that I've talked about on this podcast before. And that's a term that they use a lot too. So I knew I wanted to build my fuck you fund. I knew I wanted to work on my money mindset. And I knew I really wanted to work on my credit card debt because I have built up a lot of credit card debt over the last several years. Like I think a lot of people have. And I want to be more transparent about finances and like money and all the things, because that's been a big journey for me this year. So those are my two focuses. And I was like, okay, if like money is a focus, if time and energy is a focus, and if acting is a focus, then like, where does Life Curious Women fit in this? I don't make money from Life Curious Women, really. I do it for the love of the community and building something beautiful. And where does it fit, even though I love it? And so that was like a big question for me in that phase of this year around, springtime. And so I thought that like, rather than rack my brain and make a decision then, was let's take a break. And I did. And I took a break and, spent the summer just really focusing on acting. And a lot of things happened with representation. A lot of things happened around my healing, my personal healing. And this is where I want to share a little bit more about like what's been going on. But I think that like, as I've talked about on this podcast before, last year was a massive up-level phase for me. I learned a lot, but a lot changed in my life. I went from hospitality to a 9-to-5, which I've been working towards for a really long time, a flexible 9-to-5 that allowed me to not only survive and pay for my bills, but allowed me to still be an actor. I booked my first TV role last year. I booked 8 commercials last year, and launched the retreat, launched events, like was on season 4 of the pod. Like there was so much happening and so many things that I had been wanting for so long. And so then going into this, I feel like this episode's gonna be so long. I'm so sorry, guys. But like, truthfully, so much happened. And so going like into this year, I was like, what else is gonna happen? And honestly, this year has been like a continuation of that up level, but in a different way. it's been like, hey, we're up leveling still. You're not only in a new level of your life, in a new version of your life, but you're continuing to up level, but this time it's different. This time it's not just happening. This time it's not just like, ooh, like you're doing the thing and it's happening and great, beautiful things are happening. Not that last year was easy by any means, but this year felt like a lot of the work was going to be internal work. A lot of the work was going to be me facing some childhood wounding. And that is exactly what happened, was that like literally I decided to take this break, and then I felt like the entire summer I spent facing like wounding after wounding and like facing a lot of stuff that I hadn't thought about in a while. And um in conjunction with working on my money mindset, I was working through the book You're a Badass, um, by Jen Sincero. You're a Badass at Making Money. Sorry. You're a Badass is her first book, but she has a money book, which I literally have like right behind my computer here. But I started working through that book. Again, it's like the second or third time, but this time I was like really, really doing it and like moving through the book. And all of it is money mindset. Like so much of money is your mindset. And that ripples out into like other parts of your life. And I truly think that like it started with the retreat and then it just kept trickling. Like I went through a tough time with like just like what's going on, how does life cures fit into my life, how can I keep doing this alone, like without getting a financial return. Like not that everything is finances, but when you're like looking at like your plate and it's so full and you're like, well, I have something that's paying my bills, I have my career, my acting career, that is the main priority, and then I have Life Curious Women, which like the dream is one day Life Curious Women will become a massive community that becomes like, that then turns into a business. Um, but like for now, it's not that. And so like, all of these questions. And so like facing that, but then also dealing with like a lot of childhood trauma around like letting people down and feeling like I'm quote unquote in trouble. And that inner child belief came up for me a lot this summer with having to like, let go of a manager, let go of an agent, and like just having to transition with that. And there was so much around that, and so much that actually it continues through the fall. I've been still dealing with a lot of that wounding, and it keeps coming up. These tests keep coming up in this area, and just very interesting that I'm seeing this pattern, and like this is clearly something I have to look at. And so it was a lot of that, but it was still a great summer. I got to, go to my first like TV festival, and I went by myself and I got to meet a lot of actors. And a friend of mine was a part of the festival. She helped plan it. And so it was really great to meet a lot of her friends and a lot of writers and incredible people. And I also got to go to the beach. I got to like rest and like just focus on myself. And that was really beautiful. And now going into the fall, I started doing the Artist Way, which if you've never done the Artist Way, never heard of the Artist Way, is basically like a 12-week program to get back in touch with your inner child artist. And everyone should do it, not just artists. Everyone should do it. It is a beautiful experience. And so I started doing the Artist Way, and I actually like just was doing so much of this like inner work. Back in July, I posted about this on social media, but I also worked with my wellness coach to do a little digging with my hormones, because I've always really struggled with my menstrual cycle since I was a teenager. And like, truthfully, the most painful things, like I have to stay home from work. I have to stay home. Used to have to stay home from school. And I never really questioned why, until now, which is like crazy. And so I started working with a coach to test my hormones, and I basically discovered that like the root of first of all, that all my hormones are completely messed up, and that the root of all my problems is chronic stress. Who would have thought? And so that opened up so much wounding for me because I started to think about like my relationship to productivity and where it came from and like my childhood and why I felt the need to like constantly go and like constantly, accomplish things and like how I felt when I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish or things didn't go my way and how it affected my mood. And it opened a can of worms, y'all. Like it truly was a secondary catalyst in my growth. And this is not to be dramatic, but like I truly think it like exposed a new phase of my life. Like I feel like my brain chemistry has changed in the last like 3-4 months. Learning this new information, starting to look at my relationship to productivity and how I approach rest, how I don't prioritize it, and like why, And so, it is really, really changed. I feel like I have to make a whole separate episode about this because, like, literally, it really has just like opened up a new window into like my next phase of healing and like who I am and who I want to be and how I what that version of myself looks like, what that successful version of myself looks like. It really, really has helped me shift that vision. And so I think I will do like maybe our next solo episode, I'll really do a deep dive into like what I've discovered and what I'm working on. But y'all, that opened up a whole new can of worms. I went through like a whole grief period of sadness, of feeling like, how could I have done this to myself? How could I have like worked myself so hard that I messed up my whole body? Like that is crazy. And I felt a lot of sadness around that. And so going into the fall, I knew that this was a good time for me to do the artist's way. I knew it was a good time to like look inward. I ended up booking a psychic session. And again, might do a whole separate episode about that, but essentially learned that all this work around this new discovery of my relationship to rest and success and all of these things is truly the next journey, is the key to getting to the next phase of my life and the next phase of my dream life. And so, yeah, y'all. And so it's just been insane. And then I guess what? Booked another TV role in September while I was on vacation. I went to go see Bad Bunny. Yes, it was amazing. And learned that I had booked a Netflix show. And so I shot that in September. It was so incredible. And I can't wait to share more about it with y'all. They like swear you to like secrecy and you can't share like anything, but but I will be sharing more once the episode is slated to come out and the show comes out. But yes, booked that, shot that. It was such a beautiful experience. And so it has been a crazy year, probably one of the best years in my acting career. Not to mention, remember I said I was working my money mindset? Yeah, all of that has come to fruition. I've had so much success manifesting multiple streams of income, manifesting money like unexpectedly. I've been able to build that fuck you fund. Snaps. And I have already like more than half cut down my credit card debt. And I'm pretty much slated to like be fully paid off by January, which is insane. This is quite literally like the best financial place I have ever been in my entire life. And I truthfully think that not only obviously the practical side of things, which is like getting the 9 to 5 and having a consistent income, and also like I am making more money in this 9 to 5 than I ever was in hospitality. So obviously that helps. But I think that there were also other avenues that happened between that and also booking my first union commercial and also some other things that have happened, and it's just been an incredible year. And I'm being super transparent about this because I want to talk more about like money mindset and building our finances and personal finance and the resources that I've been leaning on and learning from, because I think it's so important for women, especially women of color, to be financially free, financially secure, because we're going to do good things with that money. We're going to do good things. And when good people have money, good things happen. And so that it's been incredible. It's been an incredible year, but a really hard year in that, like, where so much has happened, and like my life once again looks radically different from a year ago, which I'm so grateful for. But it took a lot more work, I think, this year than last year, and a lot of internal work. And I feel like there's so much more work to come. There's a lot of like healing that I have to do around the things that I've shared. And that's my next journey. And I'm ready for it. And I'm here for it because I know that this is building a foundation for so many more beautiful things that are coming. And I want to talk more about my manifestation practice. And I want to talk more about like mindset and like money, and as I've said, and resting and taking care of yourself and healing. And I think that that's going to be this next phase of what this podcast is we're going to continue to talk about self-development and productivity and all the things, but I think that there's going to be much more of a focus on healing and money mindset and finances, and building strong foundations in your life and being more raw and honest. I think I'm always very honest, and I'm a really big, open, wide open book. But having more episodes like this, and really sharing more about the journey and the hard stuff, because I think a lot of times we are scared to be vulnerable, and social media is a lie, and we think that everything's like roses and rainbows and butterflies, and it's not. And that's what the season's going to be about, not just in solo episodes, but also with our guests. I want to be like really honest with our guests. I want them to share what they don't share normally. I want to hear about the hard parts of what they do and their passions, because just because you're passionate about something, just because you're doing something that feels very purposeful, doesn't mean it's not hard, doesn't mean you don't want to give up. And we have to be real about that. We have to be honest about that. Like, just because you started a business that you love and you feel really aligned with, doesn't mean that you're not going to want to quit, when it gets hard. It doesn't mean that you will. And it also doesn't mean that it's bad if you do. But I want to talk about those moments, and I want to get really deep about all of it. And so, yeah, that leads us all up to where we are now. And I think I will do a much bigger, deep dive into that journey with my wellness coach, the journey with talking to a psychic and what that experience was like, and all of the internal and mindset work that I'm currently doing on my own. I haven't been in therapy in over a year. And so a lot of this has just been me tackling it myself. And in the mix of all of this, layering, learning more about my ADHD brain and how to do all of this with ADHD, and not being so hard on myself, which is the hardest thing ever. And so going into this next podcast season, going into this new phase with Life Curious Women, what all this means is that, I think around summertime, I was like, no, I'm ready to dive back in. I do love doing the podcast. Like, I absolutely love talking to y'all. I love bringing on guests. I love connecting with incredible women. Like, that feels very aligned for me. It feels really exciting for me. I feel very fulfilled when I get to do this, because I don't really have another space to be this honest and share my experiences and like hopefully encourage people to, heal and progress and follow their purpose and lean into their passions and all the things. And I knew that I did want to dive back into the podcast. I knew that I wanted to start our newsletter back up, which I also took a break from. I knew that I needed to do this in a new way. I knew that I needed to expand my team. And so that's what I did. And I now have a social media team of several incredible women who are helping me build out our community online and with our newsletter. If you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, if you haven't seen it yet, go subscribe. The link is in our show notes. And we've totally revamped the newsletter this fall. I am throwing in there news headlines, things that you shouldn't miss. I'm also throwing in there events. If you've been around for a while, you know that we used to have a New York City women's events calendar that went on for like 8 months before I was like, I can't do this anymore by myself or for free. So I had to let it go. But now we're doing like a condensed version of this where every week we're going to share 3 events that we are in our like orbit for that week with links to the tickets, days, times, all the things. And so you can keep up to date if you're looking to like go to more events in the city. We're going to throw in some recommendations every week, whether that's like product recommendations, look like restaurants, books, all podcasts, all the things that is in all of our sort of like day to day that we're watching, learning, looking at, going to, and obviously updates with the podcast and always a little note from me every week. So that is going on. And our social media team, our marketing team is incredible in helping me build that out. We also have a partnerships, our head of partnerships, who is incredible. And she just joined us like 2 months ago. And she has been helping me with working on building partnerships with Life Curious Women and women-owned companies and brands that align with us. So if you are listening and you have a brand or community and you're interested in partnering with us, we want to hear from you. So definitely reach out to our head of partnerships. I will put her contact information in our show notes as well, because we'd love to partner with you. We'd love to talk about how we can make that happen. And so she's been helping me build that out and that wing of Life Curious Women out. And as always, I have support now with our editing for our podcast and now with our YouTube. So there is so much more support this time around. And I knew that this was going to be how I was going to be able to continue to build this community and continue to bring this to all of y'all. And I think it is a group effort in order to continue to do this. And so I'm really excited. I feel very, very grateful for this new team that is very, very new within the last, 2 months. And so I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see what we build out. But what you can expect from us from here on out is the most honest, in-depth conversations, the most deep, raw, honest solo episodes, really useful newsletters for y'all to keep up to date with events, headlines, recommendations, all the top things that is going to contribute to your purposeful journey. And of course, our retreat, which I said we were going to get into and I never did, but here it is. We are going to India next March for Women's History Month. We are going for 9 days with 10 incredible women. I can't believe I'm saying that. I was in shock at how quickly we sold out our seats. I launched this in June. Within a month, we sold out. Within a month. Like, y'all were like, ready. And I'm so grateful for this group. We have almost all the women who came on our last retreat coming on this retreat. And then a ton of new incredible Life Curious women who are coming with us on this next retreat. And so, yeah, we're going in March. I'm pumped. I'm going to keep you along the ride as we like continue to build out, different parts of it. But yeah, what? Like insane. I'm so pumped. We're going to India. Like this is sick. And I really thought I was going to be spending the next like 9 months, 7 months, whatever it is, talking about this and, trying to fill seats. And the fact that it sold out in a month is just like so telling that like clearly what we're doing is working and resonating with all of you. And I can't wait to keep building it out. And I'm so excited to keep going. And truthfully, I think that this break I took, I needed in order to rejuvenize my energy, to like sort of get clarity around what this next phase looks like and how to make it work and how to make it sustainable for me, but also to like continue to show up for all of you. And so I'm just really, really pumped for this. And I'm so excited you're here for the journey. Ooh, I'm so excited. So help us grow this community. Help us grow this community. Follow us on Instagram. Go sign up for our newsletter. Tell your friends about it. Share this podcast episode with your friends. Share the entire podcast with your friends. Let's keep growing this. Let's keep growing this because there are so few spaces that are honest and genuine nowadays. Everything is about networking. Everything is about, how to get opportunities and it's very disingenuous. I've been in a lot of these spaces and I know that what we're building is so much bigger than that, so much more honest, so much more authentic. So I am excited to continue building that with y'all. And thank you for listening. I'm pumped for you to continue listening and to hear who we have on the podcast this season. We've already recorded several episodes, so I'm excited for y'all to listen, to learn, to grow, and yeah, keep an eye out on our newsletter. Keep an eye out on our new social media posts that my incredible team is building out for y'all. I want to keep providing so much resources, so much important and like actually valuable things for everyone. So I'm glad you're here. I hope you liked this update. I know it was kind of long. I appreciate y'all. And I'll see you next week for an interview episode. And I think y'all are going to really love it. And let us know if you're watching on YouTube and if you like it and if you like this new format and what you're needing and what you're wanting. And if there's any topics you want me to talk about, DM me. Shoot me a DM. I'm happy to do an episode about it. All right, y'all. That's it for this week. We'll talk soon.